You there?
Well done, Cyber.
Well done.
Okay. You there? Good evening, and welcome to this film screening of FGC, a frank discussion with Dawn, Julia, and Hibo. We are live on Waltham Forest Women's Network YouTube channel. My name's Cyber Salam, Vice Chair of Waltham Forest Women's Network. My co-hosts for this evening are Hibo Wajeh, anti-FGC campaigner, and Rosie Nixon, editor-in-chief of Hello Magazine. Waltham Forest Women's Network. Over to you, Rosie. Channel. My name's Cyber Salam, Vice Chair of Waltham Forest Women's Network. There is a little bit of a delay.
Nixon. I'm editor-in-chief at Hello Magazine. Really thrilled to be co-hosting tonight. Thank you for having me, Waltham Forest Women's Network, especially Farah and Cyber. And it's great that you could all join us today, because today is International Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM, or FGC, as you'll hear it referred to in the discussion we're about to watch. And I was really honoured to take part in a discussion earlier this week with Hibo and Cyber, but we were joined by Dawn French, the actress and comedian, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, and with Julia Lala Maharaj, who is the founder of the Orchid Project, a charity which aims to see the end of FGC worldwide. And why am I here? Well, to put it short, because of Hibo Walderi, who I met 3 years ago. And quite frankly, I would do anything for this woman, who is a survivor of FGM and has spent her life now campaigning, educating tirelessly all kinds of communities in the hope that we can see the end of this barbaric practice worldwide. And the exciting thing for me was that this might happen within our lifetimes, possibly by 2030. And change is happening. It's happening all the time. Change is coming, but there is still a bit of a way to go. So really the object of this evening is to inform, to inspire, to tool you all up with lots of knowledge so that you can go out and share this knowledge, spread the word, use your voices, use your platforms and everything that you can do to spread the word that this practice needs to be wiped out. So we are going to be watching the film shortly, and I'm very aware that this is your Saturday evening, so we're going to keep the event as concise as we can within an hour, and there will be a chance to answer a few questions at the end. We're going to look at some of those from the chat bar, so while you're watching either on YouTube or on Zoom, do put a question into the chat bar and we'll try to come to it. And if we don't, because we are a bit limited on time, then perhaps we can continue having this sort of discussion over social media afterwards. So I'll hand over to Hibo quickly, but actually just a couple of housekeeping things. Do remember to keep your mic on mute if you're watching on the Zoom. That's really key. But I hope you find it informative, and thank you so much for sharing your Saturday with us. So over to you quickly, Hibo.
Unmute, Hibo.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. This event has been in the making for quite a while and literally put it together last week. But one thing I want to say is thank you very much for giving us your Saturday evening. Thank you for, I'm a very informal person. Most of you, I just tweet you or write to you, what do you call a direct message to say, please join us. And some of you did, and I'm absolutely, absolutely grateful to that. I'm really looking forward to discussions from Julia Bradbury, from Lorraine Kelly, from CJ, from Serena, for everyone, Leila Hussein, everybody who has joined us today. I'm looking forward to your input, but also to, to discuss such an amazing day, to discuss this issue is going to be brilliant. As you all know, I'm a survivor. I don't have to say more than that. And you all have been part of my journey one way or another. And I'm really, really grateful to that. So I'm going to cut it short because I know it's your Saturday evening. I don't want to take it too long. And I'm going to give it back to Cyber. Hello, Cyber. DJ, from Serena.
Thank you, ladies. Let's watch this now.
Everybody who has joined us today, I'm looking forward to your input, but also to
to improve their well-being, creating happy, healthy women. I am delighted to have in this virtual room with me today Dawn French,
Thank you, ladies.
best known for her role as President and the French and Saunders Show. Dawn strongly supports the campaign against female genital cutting, or FGC for short. We also have with us today Julia Lala Maharaj, founder of the Orchid Project, which works for a world free from FGC, and Hibo, somewhat of a celebrity in Waltham Forest. She is a Somali-born anti-FGC campaigner. She has courageously written about her own experience of FGC in her book. I'm delighted to have. And last but not least, we have the lovely Rosie Dawn French, editor-in-chief of her co-hosting and the French and Saunders Show. Thank you all for agreeing to take part in the campaign against. Shall we start with Hibo cutting?
Thank you very much for everybody who's here today. You all know I'm also have FGC, and I've dedicated my life in an educational way. I'm a massive supporter of it. And when you have been in a depression for years and years and years, and you never knew very much why were you in depression, you just had a pain, and then you overcome that. There's something beautiful about that. You can either go angry and be angry at the world and be angry with everybody else, including your family, or you can go other way and use it in a positive way to bring change about, to educate people, and to make them understand why do this our loving mothers still do it, and it doesn't come from a place of hate for them.
I think, Hibo, that is something that struck me so strongly when I first met you, which was at an Orchid Project event. I think it was 3 years ago now. Dawn French was there and Julia hosting. And I met you, and I think what struck me the most was how you could use something so personal and so big that happened to you at such a young age, you know, in such a way that was for good, you know, that you had this mission to see the end of FGC, you know, worldwide. And I just felt that, gosh, the very least that we can all do is use our platforms in support of you.
It can have an emotional impact, you really can. And one thing that I've learned over the years is when I first met you, self-care, number one. And I have a therapy on speed dial, so if I feel like I'm really there, I just, you know, let out my emotions, I can do that. Plus, I have an amazing mental friends who really, really, you know, look out for me.
And Dawn, you were at that event because you've been involved with the Orchid Project for a while now. So what was it that made you feel so passionately about getting involved with this cause and seeing an end to FGC?
Well, I think, like so many of us, for years and years and years, I had heard about FGC, but it was so completely unpalatable for me, so horrific and unimaginable, that I dealt with it by just making sure it was over there, somewhere I wasn't looking. And it wasn't in my immediate life, as I thought then. And I think that's what I'd done for a long time, suppressed any feelings I had about it, but the feelings were very mighty and they were always going to bubble up. And the reason they bubbled up was because of Julia. Julia came to me and told me about Orchid. And it was as if there was suddenly a release for me, a route through which I could be involved and lend my voice to this, you know, to the ending of FGC. Because I think as well, I carried a bit of sort of guilt about the fact that here's me, this kind of fat, white, middle-class woman, this isn't to do with me. Who am I actually to speak about this? but that's the very thing I am. And so long as I can stand behind and be there from behind and make sure the right people are in front, then it's okay. And I think that furthermore, the very thing that I thought was not in my immediate world was in my immediate world, and I didn't know it. You know, it wasn't just that, it was around me, literally amongst my own friends, who's, for some, whose shame, the difficulty, the pain, all of those things that Hibo talks about, prevented even those very close to me telling me about it. So actually I got involved, and then I realized I was much more involved on a really personal level than I ever knew. For me, Hibo is not defined by the cutting that she underwent. She's arrested her life in a very interesting, dynamic way, where she can help other people to deal with what's happening, and she can change people's hearts and minds. She's a huge part. She's in the vanguard of that. It's certainly in this country, she is. And she is a survivor, and she's very mighty. And, you know, if I can have even 100th of her strength, I'd be delighted.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Now, as you said, Dawn, you know, the aim of this sort of event, it really is, isn't it, to inform and to inspire others. So perhaps we should sort of go back and hear a bit more about your story, and so that people understand, you know, what does FGC actually mean? Well, there's under the WHO, there's actually many types that's been put on, but I come from Somalia. As you can tell, we love colors. We like bling, even if it's 10 o'clock in the morning. We practice a type called infibulation, which is a total removal of everything, actually, clitoris, labias, both in and out, and then whatever skin is left, you either stitched up, or if your cutter does not have stitching, you know, threads to stitch you up, is what they will use is thorns to pierce from one side to the other, whatever skin is left. And it stays, those thorns stays like, you know, staircases, like 10, 12, however long your genitals are. And I come from that, and I experienced that type. I would say almost 100% of my age have experienced that type. We still are the highest prevalence in Somalia. Eritrea do that type as well. And most of Middle Eastern countries do that as well. It's horrific. In our generation, there was no anesthesia, nothing like that. People that you loved held you down, and we'll talk about that later, why they do that. But it is something that our communities hold extremely dear and find it to be part of their heritage or culture or tradition. It depends on different communities, but that's how it is. I will leave to Julia to describe the rest.
I think that scale of the practice, the fact that we have figures that show 200 million women in 31 countries have undergone the practice. But now we know so much more. We know that in up to 90 countries around the world, FGC is happening.
Yeah.
You haven't calculated that number from 200. So the very fact that millions and millions of girls and women have gone through a similar thing to Hibo just is why we're all here. I think other things just to touch on are average age a girl is cut at, Hibo said, is under 5 years old. This is happening across the globe. So most recently, we at Orchid have launched the Asia Network, which has 13 countries in Asia as a part of it. In Indonesia, for example, 49% of girls are cut. So I think, as Dawn was saying, our mission is to keep learning, keep questioning, keep understanding, until we bring this issue out of the taboo that it is. We still aren't talking enough about it. I think as well, the thing that Dawn mentioned that was so important in setting up Orchid was needing to move towards solutions, move towards hope, move towards how change can really happen. I had no idea that 75% of all girls in Ethiopia were cut. And I asked many, many Ethiopian activists, look, I'm a Londoner, what legitimacy, what right do I have to raise my voice? And I got a really stern talking to by those African women who said, you need to go and use your privilege. And the privilege only works when we are shining light on the work that others are doing. This issue has to belong in the communities, in the cultures who own it, but those of us who can use our power and our voice to do more absolutely need to be there.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the figures? I mean, you talked a bit about Ethiopia there and Somalia, but, you know, as Dawn said as well, this is really on our doorsteps too. You know, it's not a problem that's confined to other parts of the world. So what are the figures for England and for London and, you know, even for Waltham Forest?
We actually do not have the real figure in terms of, no one has done a research all over UK to find out how many are. But through the National Health Services, and this is coming, women coming through the pregnancy route, we've had 170,000 women and girls logged in, and 66,000 girls are at risk. As Julia mentioned, worldwide is 200 million women who have undergone, and in Africa alone, 3.6 million girls are at risk each year, and every day, every single day, 800 girls worldwide are cut.
Wow. And that's only those that are reported as well. So
unreported death actually related to FGC taking place is massive from complications. Unreported death to maternal, maternal death linked to FGM. That are unreported is also staggering in developing countries.
Because I know that a lot of your work, Hibo, is geared towards that education within the community. So from doctors to schools, as well as the police service, you know, it's all a big education kind of project, isn't it?
It is.
Here? And that has led to arrest.
I'm extremely passionate about education, because I believe through education we can overcome many things, especially cruel practices like this, or anything that is violence towards women and girls need to be taught from an early young age. Women, boys and girls need to understand mutual respect for each other, support for each other, that no one is higher than the other because you're a boy or you're a girl or you're a this. No one, we should all be equal, and that is very important message that we need to teach our young people. It's not only that, when I go to schools and I teach, and I have tips to give girls, like if I say to them, for example, if I say, one of the girls said, but I might be afraid to say to my parents, if I hear whispers that something's going to happen to me, I don't want to say it out loud because I love my parents. So what can I do to help myself? And I was telling them, through the airport, all the border force, individuals have been trained to find, if you are going through the metal gates and you are under 18 and these metal gates goes beep, 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 they take you to different places, especially if you've got your family with you, to ask you separately what's the matter. So there's many ways, there's anesthesia, but for me, education makes one of the most important things that education produces is that important talk between the parent and the child. It's the child asking for the first time, do you know about this? I've learned about this today. And opening that conversation between them is the most important part.
Okay. But how do we, maybe this is a question for you, Julia, sort of untangling that very deep-rooted cultural tradition that exists within communities. How do we get to that grassroots level and see change happen there?
Change really is happening. And the reason change is happening is we're dealing with a taboo issue, number one. And for millennia, people have not talked about cutting, and they've not talked about female genitals. We don't, at the best of times, why would we expect anyone else in the world to do that? So firstly, the silence is lifting. The way that's happening is with pioneering, mainly charities, frankly, going to communities and asking them about their human rights. So it's a really interesting entry point. It's about how people want to show up in the world. Do they want equality? Do they want rights about workforce, about religion? And as part of that, people learn, oh, I have a right to be free from violence. I have a right to marry whom I want. I have a right to practice whatever religion I want. And as a result of them understanding their human rights, they also understand they have a responsibility to uphold the rights of others. And the point with this approach is you don't go in and tell a community, you've got to stop mutilating your daughters and show them a picture of a bloodied vagina, which sadly some people do. Because instantly the community says, you've come to fix me, right? I'm wrong, thanks very much. And by the way, that's why we use cutting in our language, because if we use mutilation, instantly we're saying, we've decided you're mutilators, our way is right. And what happens is people start to discuss what harms their community. And often for the first time, they may have discovered that girls have died from being cut, rather than girls have died because the spirits took them, or some other myth that has grown up that's been linked to the practice. So what you're doing constantly, as Hibo is saying, is education, but you're crucially allowing people to talk with each other. No parent alone can choose not to cut their daughter because their daughter will be ostracized from the community. It's like a social death. Everyone cut, as Hibo said, in her community, it's 100%, right? Everyone in the community will cut their daughters. The beauty of the change is if you can get an entire community to choose to stop cutting all of their daughters at once, you've shifted what's called the social norm. So you've moved all girls are cut to all girls are uncut. And we support these incredible coming together of thousands of people to witness this moment. Wow. And the absolutely as well of the ripple effect is that once a community is declared it will stop cutting, they themselves go out and spread the word. And that's what we mean.
Sorry to interrupt. Wasn't there one of these abandonment ceremonies in the Gambia just at the end of last year? Wasn't there a huge meeting last year?
428 communities came together.
Wow. Amazing.
Wow. What I love about Orchid work is amazing, because when I work with women, it's so amazing how our communities, we don't talk about period, we don't talk about anything. And then when I sit with them and I say, let's talk about sex, and they go, oh, no. And I'm like, okay, how many kids have you got? They will say 7, 8. I'm like, clearly you've had sex. So why are you afraid to talk about it? So let's discuss it. So for our communities, talking about genitals, it's the most taboo thing ever to do, because we grow up being told, be ashamed of that body, never admit it is there. Yet they cut it, yet they want to, to be found clean. They want the man to find the, clean woman. They want the man to find a woman who's a virgin. And then it's all about your vagina. Let's talk about that. It's all about that, because that is where he wants to use it. You're going to become pregnant. That's where your baby comes from. The whole vagina is the whole world, really. So why are we afraid to talk about that? So for us, community also being educated about it's okay to talk about your body, and you shouldn't be ashamed about your body is a major, major part of education. It's actually the biggest part of education, because when they hear the word vagina, they just literally get, oof, it doesn't exist. Yes, it does. It's used. Your babies come from it. The whole world can't evolve without it. Let's talk about vagina. So for me, I find that has been the most bulk of my work, making women feel comfortable.
I think most people believe that this practice is a religious practice.
Yeah.
What do you say to that, guys?
One thing I say to people is, I'm a Muslim, and I ask women, you are Muslim or Christian, whatever you are, in your Bible or Quran or Torah, does it say anything about our genitals being cut? No. So how do you justify this as a religion thing? And it comes back to them saying, well, Sheikh said this, so he can't tell you that, because we believe in Islam, like when you die and you go to a paradise or whatever, your body parts are going to talk of what you've done to them. Your mouth will say she did this and that. Your tongue will say she did. So I said, you are going to be held accountable by your God. He will ask you, how dare you do something that I've created that is beautiful? You want to, do something to it, because there's impure part of it. There's no such thing. And then when we have that discussion, it dawns on them saying, oh my God, I shouldn't have believed everything. There are women who absolutely felt horrific of believing what the religious leader said to them.
I think it's really important for those religious leaders that don't believe it to openly condemn it, because it is something that would appear to be more cultural in some communities. Like, I didn't come across it until I met Hibo a few years ago, and I was absolutely shocked and could not believe, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, most of the religions believe in not inflicting pain on anyone. So why should this be okay? Why should this be the norm?
I do not believe that those men who are part of the cutting decisions would like their wives or their daughters or their sisters to die or have this horrible horror. I believe that most people would like this to finish. That's my deep belief, but am I ignorant?
No, you're not. No, you're not. Actually, most of the men don't want this at all. It's just that they were raised never to mention body parts of women, especially. They feel it's beneath them. They feel like, I can't talk about it, it's women issue. So for them, also men need to be empowered with education and told, actually, as a parental, you have a right to say no. And in our communities, men are the head of the house. So if they say this doesn't happen, it normally will never take place.
I think there's this moment of when people understand, some of the religious leaders as well, once they've heard someone like Hibo or some of our partners in country, they get it. They suddenly get the harm that's been caused, that they've been part of, that they've been complicit in. And they become some of our strongest advocates. Amos, this incredibly well-respected elder who came to Canada House actually with us a couple of years ago and made the case to the Canadian government. He, in his community, in the border of Kenya and Tanzania, he got the Maasai elders together. And 2 years ago, I was standing on a hillside with no one in sight, waiting for this ceremony to start, to declare an end to cutting. And as the sun rose, people started walking towards us, and they'd walked for miles. And we ended up with 3,000 people standing, coming together for the first time, the Maasai saying, we won't cut our daughters anymore.
Yeah, well, that ripple effect, certainly sounds incredible. But where does the role of government come in? And, why is FGC not illegal kind of all around the world?
The UK government has been absolutely amazing and supportive in terms of listening to survivors like me and actually changing the law for good. And we had the first prosecution ever 2 years ago, and this lady actually came from my borough, Walton Forest Borough, and actually rang me that morning to say that she's been accused of cutting her girls. Would I get involved? And my first question to her was, is the police involved? And she said, yes. I said, sorry, I can't be involved. It's crazy to think that day and age that you are in this unbelievable country. I love my beloved UK because it's what I am today. It's because of UK gave me that right to be me and to discover me. It's to take that right as an adult and then go on and do horrific things to your child because you have these things going on, whether it's culture or not. But for her, it was infused with witchcraft, where on her WhatsApp messages, it turns out somebody who calls herself high priestess or whatever was telling her, if you cut the clitoris off, your backlash will go away. But it is UK has a strong law, absolutely strong law. And UK created their laws 1985, but they never told anyone. It wasn't part of the safeguarding. It wasn't told to the professionals. From 2020 September, it has made part of the school, PHSC. I still find that they only made the secondary school is a step because we know the FGC takes place 100% when the kids are younger, almost 100% when kids are under the age of 10. That is in a progress as well, but I'm very, very proud of UK. In terms of the world, Somalia announced last year that they are going to stop it, but Somalia has a major, major problem. This is all about telling the UN we're stopping it, but they haven't done any work yet because Somalia government is unstable. So every 6 months when you make a little step, we've got 10 million backwards because there's a clash again of clanism and everything going on. Mali, Sudan is the latest to announce they are going to be abandoning and they are going to enforce the law. Here's the thing though, every country that said we're going to stop the FGC, I want them to do these two things that should go hand in hand: education, upholding the law. Marry them, and you will have a success.
And then you're set. Yeah.
The way we see this issue being held is it's part of a system, it's part of a whole constellation, and everyone has a part to play. And no one more so than governments. They need to resource the movement, they need to support education. And I'm talking about globally here, not just in the UK, but in all countries. They're the ones who can both set legislation and enforce it, but also they need to be really visionary and bold. They have a right to uphold child protection, all of these other issues. What is really heartening is there are systems like parts of the UN system, parts of the donor system that are beginning to come towards this movement. But we need so much more action so quickly. Hibo said 3.6 million girls are at risk every year of being cut. Those figures are going up and up and up. Through the pandemic, we're also having to slow progress because we can't go out into communities in the same way. So if we want to make change happen much, much faster, and boy, do we owe it to all these girls on the planet to do that, we need to hold governments to account and support them to make these tough decisions.
Hibo, you touched on it a bit earlier. I'm interested to know about your forgiveness of your mother.
When I married here and I became first time pregnant, there was a lot of things going on in my head. First, I was petrified, I'm gonna give birth. And then I was thinking, oh my God, I have a lot of baggage in my head. I don't know how to, mom, I don't know if I'm gonna be a good man. I have so much, good mom, I have so much anger towards my mom, but I still love her as well. That was what was really confusing for me, was I respected her to the maximum. I loved her to the maximum, yet there was a wall between us. I couldn't break it. And going to the scan, and that was back in 1991. And then I got to see the heartbeat going that, and I knew that moment, I really have an amazing human being that I'm carrying, and I need to be the best I can to be a mom. And the only way I could do that was just to forgive my mother at that point. Literally forgave her on that bed while the scan was happening. And I didn't tell her.
Has your mum understood why you need to use your voice the way you had? Has she forgiven you?
I wish she was here, Dawn. She passed away almost 18 years ago. I wholeheartedly believe if she was here today and she saw what I'm doing, she would have been part with me, you know, going everywhere. I wholeheartedly believe that, because when I told her 10 years later that I forgave her, it was a revelation for her of how did you and why did you? And telling her that, she still felt that I needed to cut my daughter at that time. She did, but I believe she stuck on that mode. I believe that would have changed her mind. She have seen me how I am today. She would have loved my kids. And I wish she was here today to see how I am.
Wow. That's quite amazing that you had that opportunity to forgive her.
Yes,
wow.
Because she was dying.
That you had some closure.
She was dying. She had a stroke that paralyzed her from neck down. So it was hard looking after her for 4 years. And for her to ask me, have you forgiven? And to her to say it out loud, because I know how much I hurt you, was such a relief and, healing for me, it was.
Gosh, that's really
this
moving.
is a very big, the line through the women, the line of trust and belief, and it is very strong, isn't it? And it's so strong, in fact, that I think sometimes people can't buck against it, because it is your beloved mother who's done something she so strongly believes in, and that she can't not do until someone like you comes along, Hibo, who breaks that line.
I just feel like I have done amazing in that, and I owe that to the rest of the world as well.
Yeah, well, that's where the hope and the optimism is.
Yeah.
I remember Julia telling me that, you know, if the training and the understanding and the talking and the government input and the, you know, and the religious leaders and the elders, and if people can start to change their minds, if the hearts and minds can be changed, this could end in our lifetime.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it can. And when I went to Senegal with Orchid, first thing I always never gonna forget is how we were welcomed with twerking. We did twerking. Oh, it was so fabulous. It was fabulous.
You are a good twerker, Hibo. I've seen you in action.
I did my best. But the whole reason the Senegal trip was, that gave me hope. Before that, Julia knows, I did not have hope. I thought I'm not going to see anything in my lifetime, even any changes. But Senegal showed me I'm very wrong. Senegal showed me how communities have abandoned FGC, girls flourishing, boys flourishing. And from there on, I knew whatever I do, there is a goal to end this, and it will be ended. Yeah. And that trip gave me that. It did.
Gosh, well, amazing. And I think we're starting to bring our sort of discussion to a close. It's been great to hear about some of the triumphs, you know, those moments of really believing that this is going to change within our lifetime, which is such a powerful thought. And definitely, Dawn, it was one that really struck me when I was at that Orchid Project breakfast, you know, that we could all make a difference. So perhaps we could just go round and say for everybody watching this now, you know, what could we all do? Like, Hibo, what can we do to help you now if we're feeling inspired by everything that you've just said?
Yeah, I think what everybody can do, and I always repeat this, I never get tired of saying is, please do not look at this as a racial or religion issue. It's never that. It's a human right issue. And if you look at it as a human rights issue, you can join the movement to end it. You can use your platform. You can do many things. You can support charities like Orchid who are doing great work, whether you have resources to give that. You can do a lot. But one thing that I know is if a human is hurting, it should be your business to get involved and to do your part.
So make it your business, you know, take what you've heard today and learned today, those powerful messages and the story of an extremely brave, incredible survivor who I'm so honoured to call a friend. You know, we've got to put our support behind you.
This is the pure example of a sisterhood here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what this is about women and girls.
Yes.
We are mothers, sisters, daughters, you know, and we are that for our whole world. We've learned, especially in this very odd year, how small our world is. And this is our job, is to reach out, literally to hold the hands of those little under 5-year-old girls. You know, we've got to raise a voice, whether it's with speaking, whether it's with money, whether it's with petitioning. Whatever it is, I think that's what we have to do. I would like to end for me on something that I've spoken to Julia about before. And it's a tiny little poem that I read years ago. Every time I think, I need to think differently about this, which is what we all need to do about FGC, I think back to this little poem, and it's by an American poet called Jane Hirshfield. And this is it. I moved my chair into sun. I sat in the sun, the way hunger is moved when called fasting. So it's 3 powerful little lines. I moved my chair into sun, which means I decided to think differently about this. I sat in the sun, meaning, for me anyway, I stayed there. I decided to stay there in the sun where I can see what I'm doing. The way hunger is moved when called fasting. So we can change how the world is about anything, and especially about this, because the willing is there.
Can I support all of you and say thank you so much, but also just to pay tribute to all of the people on the front line out in the community in the change. The Hibo is unique, and there are hundreds of Hibos in that spirit. And on my wall is the picture of this amazing woman, Miriam Bamber, who is, as we speak, walking out to communities, explaining how and why she has abandoned cutting, often faced with huge resistance because those communities aren't ready to change yet. And she's having stones thrown at her back, she said to me. One of the most difficult parts of her day, she said, was being stoned. And I remember saying to her, Mariam, what do you do? And she just said, I go back, I go back, I go back. And I think the thought that we have Mariam's back, that we are there in this sisterhood, leaning in, making this web of positive change that is about this future all around the world. It's just so beautiful. So thank you all.
Yeah. I would say one last thing is women are the most strongest single entity on universe. Women are made out of, the essence of universe. And I say that with my whole heart, because when women come together, change happens, world becomes better. And we are amazing in that sense.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Honestly, that really powerful words to end it with. I think we all feel really empowered and kind of fired up to want to do something. I mean, I certainly, when I met you, Hibo, thought, how can I talk about genital cutting in Hello magazine? And then I had to have a word with myself and say, how can she get up there and talk about her life story? And I think everybody now that's watching can have a think about what can they do. Don't think this is too much of a taboo subject or a bit difficult or awkward for you. Get over yourself. Look what Hibo's doing. Remember her face.
It's not really a matter of how can you do it. It's how can
it's not about you. How can you not? Yeah.
Can I just say a massive thank you to Waltham Forest women. These are amazing bunch of women who have been part of my journey since the beginning. Thank you very much.
It's been an absolute honour to be part of this discussion, I have to say.
Yeah.
All right, women, mighty women.
Well, let's all do a joint heart.
Yes. Yes, there we are.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed watching that film. It was great to see it again, and I really found it such an inspiring and enlightening chat, and felt so honoured to be in the presence of all of those women. I must apologise for some of the technical issues that we had at the beginning for those that are on the Zoom, but thanks for bearing with us. And Cyber, you were an absolute legend for getting us back on track. I have no idea how you did that, because I wouldn't have been able to. So well done. And I don't think it took anything away from that film. And obviously some of what we heard there was really devastating, very hard to hear, some difficult facts about what's going on, not only in distant places around the world, but also on our doorsteps, but also some incredible moments of triumph. So we can see that there is an end in sight, and we've got to keep reminding ourselves of that. And thanks to all of you just for watching that. You are already breaking down barriers with this taboo subject just by watching this and being a part of the discussion. So I'm going to draw in some of our guests now without further ado, and I know that we've got some great names here watching, so I'm going to go first to Julia Bradbury, who I know was watching, and you actually put up a question in the comments bar during the film, because you have been lending your support to anti-FGC and anti-FGM on Twitter, but sometimes there are negative comments, aren't there, from other users? Like, how do you respond when guys are commenting, saying things like that something similar happened to them, that male circumcision is the same thing? Did you want to elaborate a bit on that question, Julia? If we can hear Julia.
Yes, hello everybody.
Hello.
Hi Rosie, hello Hibo,
Hi.
hello everybody who I don't know. It's wonderful to be part of this conversation, and I think we're all doing a fantastic thing to just first of all raise awareness I know that people have been staggered by the statistics, the number of women that this affects, 200 million women around the world, and that it is still going on. But yes, I've had a couple of questions put to me on social media, or comments really, and I wondered collectively, how do we best respond to this from men? I think it has been mostly from men saying, oh, well, this is the same as men being circumcised around the world. And obviously it is a very different topic, but there are issues around that particular topic as well. So what collectively do we think is the right way to respond to that? Because for me, it seems like a very different, a very, very different issue, because there's a lot of, we've talked about this not being a religious issue, but there's a cultural thing. And I have certainly believed that this is very much about male oppression of females and women historically as well.
One for you to answer, Hibo. You come off mute. Hibo's coming off mute.
There Julia, can I just say thank you so much. You always have been a support, always answering my messages. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you very much. Yes, I get that all the time. I get that on the Twitter. Hibo Ward, why can you not talk about male circumcision? What? And my question to that is, first of all, I didn't say male circumcision is a good thing. I never said that. I never said I support it. I never said that. What I struggle with is, how can you compare both? You can't compare both, because what happens to the girls is just ridiculous. Some of the girls, their right to have a child is taken away because of the mutilation. Their right to have a peaceful mind is taken away. Everything about you is completely, utterly touched. Plus, amount of the medical problems that you live with is unimaginable. It doesn't take away your pleasure points. It doesn't do anything like that. Male circumcision doesn't do. If we are to compare it, it means half of the penis being removed. And that is not what they want to hear. But for us, it is that. All of our genitals is almost removed. There's almost nothing left. So it can't be ever compared. And the other thing I say to them is, if you are passionate about stopping male circumcision, please go put the work that it needs. Being a survivor and being on this campaign all the time, it's not an easy work. And I've chosen what to do. So the problem I have is always this, because you're talking about the female genital mutilation, you're not talking about male circumcision. So your work is nothing. It's not about that. It's about investing in what you're doing. It's about putting passion 24/7. It's about all work. But the point of all of it is, one is almost having non-genitals and none, I mean, like we are women. If you can't feel sexual pleasure, it's the most devastating thing on earth. It is. That is what's happening to women who have undergone FGM. Not all of them. Some of them are. Some of them can't even have a baby because of that. And you want to compare with male circumcision, where you still can function, you still can impregnate women. So for me, there are two different things. But by all means, if you want to end it, establish your own platform.
Brilliant, Hibo, thank you. And a number of people actually asked a very similar question, so hopefully that helped to answer it, to have something to say in return to being asked that question. Now, I'm also really pleased that Lorraine Kelly is here and has joined us. Hibo has been a guest on the Lorraine show before, which is fantastic. So I know that Lorraine, you're a keen supporter. And how did you become aware of the subject and interested in it, Lorraine? If I could go to you.
Hello. Hi, it's lovely to see you all, and what an amazing film. That was so brilliant. It really was. It really gets us all thinking. It's been something I've been aware of, but it really sort of was put into focus when I did a thing with Comic Relief, and we did a walk, a sort of, a challenge, if you like, in a very remote part of Kenya, and we heard that a young girl who was only 12 had almost died giving birth because she had been cut. And then when I came back, I started reading more about this and trying to find out more about it, which is, I think, what we all have to do. And it was wonderful because we actually had Hibo, like I said, on the show. Now, it was quite a battle, actually, to get this on the programme. And we had to think about it long and hard. But I felt, and my editor and everyone, involved with my show felt so strongly about it. And we knew that we had somebody brilliant like Hibo to talk about it from our own personal experience, but also to put it all in context for us. And I think that's really important. You know, like, it's like what you said, Rosie, about, you know, people say, oh, what's that doing in Hello Magazine, or what's that doing on, you know, a sort of daytime chat show thing. But that's exactly where it should be. That's where we should be talking about it. And Hibo made such a huge impression on myself, on my team, and of course on the viewers as well. And it's about high time we had you back, and I hope that we can. And I've been so enthused and so happy in a way about listening to all of this. I mean, it's hard to listen to sometimes, but the fact that we are making, you know, Orchid are making such progress, and Hibo making such progress, it's amazing. It's amazing the power of women, what we can all do when we're all together. It's amazing.
You're so right. Thank you, Lorraine. And Lorraine was texting me through the screening saying, I can't wait to have Hibo back in the show. I'm going to have her back. And I was like, yes.
I think I'm overdue. I'm overdue. The clip that I did,
on
your program, it's the most used clip on every person I give interview. They always use that clip. So we do need a new clip, Lorraine.
I think it's time. It's time, it really is, and especially as we do have something positive to say as well. I mean, there's a long way to go. We all know that.
Yes,
there's a long
yes. It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see you.
Well, you heard it here first. Hibo back on the Lorraine show, which is great news. Now, Hibo, a number of people as well have been asking, and it really strikes me as well, hearing you talk about, you are such an incredible campaigner and activist here in the UK, but how do you practice self-care for yourself? You know, you're opening up yourself, you know, in such a personal story time and time again. How do you look after yourself in that process?
I really am a very lucky person, because not only do I have great friends who will literally, you know, tell me you need to take time off, you need to take these 2-3 days off, stop doing it. And I've learned to listen to that. When my friends tell me you need to switch it off, I have learned to do that. But also when I feel like I'm emotional and I'm overwhelmed, because I share a lot on Twitter, because people ask me, can you write this? Can you teach us this and that? And it's always about me dialing a good friend of mine who's a therapist, and always, sharing what I'm feeling. And I've learned to look after me, specifically the last 3 years. Before that, I never did that. But I've learned for the last 3 years to take care of me is extremely important, because what I do, it's very, very consuming.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm glad to hear that you've got those people around you who tell you when you need to do that. There was another question that jumped out to me as well. And we've got some brilliant assistants who've been WhatsApping us all of the questions from all the chat bars, which are going crazy, by the way, which is really great news. And this one is, how is it possible to help a woman to make the shift from loyalty and fear of following tradition to stand up for something that is not part of her family's experience? And that's something that you had to do, Hibo, didn't you, to stand up for something?
I think when you go against your own community on what they so hold dear, you become the hate figure, and you become that person that everybody feels like you are, you are making us look bad, you are horrible, you are cursed, you are, your families become, a point of the talk. And that's why I never talk about my family, never mention them, never say anything, because I'm petrified of them going after my family. So it's a constant battle. And I actually want to bring somebody into this conversation right now, because you mentioned this, and this is a very, very close person to me. And the whole fight that you see in FGM started with her creating the program called Cruel Cut that was on Channel 4. I hope Leila Hussein is here, and Leila Hussein can explain how much hate that she gets because of bringing this problem to the fore. I have developed something which is, I get hate all the time, but I've developed either to use it and flip it into a positive thing or ignore it. One of the last one that I shared on Facebook was somebody called me a whore. And I was like, come on, I'm 51, I passed that. No, a whore, no, I've just passed. I'm in a different league, man. Come on. But you get those kind of things. Comments do hurt you, words do hurt you. But I've learned when I get that, then I must be touching a nerve. Put it this way. If I don't hear a hate in a day, I feel like, where are you? Why are you not saying something? But I really want to bring this conversation to Leila. Leila, you there?
Hi, Hibo, I'm here. I came out for you today.
Yes. So Layla is a very well-known, Layla is also an OBE. She's a psychotherapist. She's so many things. Please meet Layla so Layla can explain amount of hate that she gets.
By the way, just to explain to everybody, Hibo and I go way back. Actually, Hibo came up to me. Hibo and I both live in Waltham Forest, and when the Crawl Cut documentary went out, and really, it's what really changed the conversation we were having in the UK. She came up to me and she said, I know everybody, we were at this family, we were at a friend's wedding, and she goes, I know everybody hates you right now, but please know I love you and I support you, and I promise I'm going to join you, which obviously she did. So I think it's important to remember the ripple effect survivors actually have on each other. So Hiba, thank you for including me in this conversation. I guess an input I would like to have, first of all, I think I want to remind everybody on this call, when survivors are speaking about this issue, we have to relive it. So even me listening to that conversation, it's so triggering, and you have flashbacks. You're constantly talking about the trauma you're experiencing. And usually you would never ask that with other people experiencing other violence. And I really wanted to come back to the point about language and the terminology. I know all of you use FGC throughout your conversation, and that's absolutely okay. But I think what I would like to encourage you to do is ask the woman you're talking to who's experienced this, what her preferred terminology is, because sometimes I personally don't prefer the terminology FGC, because what I experienced was definitely not cutting. More than that was taken away. I think the term I personally use for myself, it's actually serious sexual assault. Touching a child's genitalia, it's sexual assault. So it's really important, all of you on this call, to say to the woman who's experienced this, what's your preferred terminology? Because when you're saying it's just FGC, it can be quite triggering for women like me, because you're saying then it's something different. There's nothing wrong with that terminology. Just ask the woman is my, and also a big thank you to Orchid Project, really, who helped me even have that conversation. I think it's important that many organizations like this come together who want the same outcome. But also I think it's making sure survivors like Hibo really get the support she deserves. Sometimes, I'm not joking, if you even see an article about FGM, just make sure you check on her, because we do need to be checked on when that happens. But as a psychotherapist, one of the things I see over and over again is the resentment from a lot of young women who were born in this country who don't get justice. Educating families is important, but the voice I hear over and over again, which is a resentment, which is they get treated differently because they are Black. Because if this was happening to a white British girl, I promise you we would not even be having this conversation about respecting people. FGM, it's violence. It's not my culture. It has nothing to do with my tradition. I'm a very proud African woman. I'm a very proud Black British woman. FGM is not my culture. Violence is never my culture. So, and we need to start seeing it as that. And I would like to encourage those of you in the media to really ensure when you're talking about this issue, to call it for what it is, because by doing that, then you're giving us justice. So that's really what we're like. And in terms of self-care, Hibo, I'm one of those people, I'm like, Hibo, get off Twitter. It's important to get off Twitter sometimes. We have to, because it's something that we can't control, and we always get the attack. And just a quick answer to the male circumcision conversation. I think it's important that we acknowledge touching any child's genitalia, it's wrong. We can all agree to that. The reasoning are different, but I think also as human rights activists, we have to start asking those questions. We don't have to talk about male circumcision, but we need to start challenging why an adult is touching any child's genitalia. I think that there is a space for that, and we need to start questioning that, whether it's a boy or a girl. So, but just to end, again, Hibo, thank you so much, and I'm very proud of you for the work that you're doing. It's great to see. I was talking to another one of our other fellow activists, Hoda Ali, and we were both saying, oh, we just love how Hibo doesn't give a shit. And that's brilliant. Listen, if she gives a shit, then, I give a shit too much. So she calls me, she goes, Layla, don't care about these people. Like, just do what you need to be doing. So solidarity is so important. And for me, that conversation that I can witness
it was a conversation of solidarity. So thank you all so much. And Rosie, that was a great moderation on your part as well. Thank you. And thank you, Hibo, for having me. You don't only come out for you on a Saturday.
Well, I'm glad that we came up for both of you on this Saturday. Thank you so much, Layla. You speak so brilliantly. That was really interesting to hear from you too. And I am aware that we are now ding at 6:30 on the dot. And we could talk for a lot longer, I'm sure. But what is really important is that we all keep this dialogue going out of this Zoom and out of our YouTube live, and that we keep this conversation going. We keep it in the news. And there are lots of things that you can do. People have been asking that, what can we do? We feel, well, we want to be part of this sisterhood. You can spread the word. You can talk about this heinous crime, this violence towards women, break down the taboo. Don't be afraid to talk about this difficult subject in public. Use your voice, use your platform, donate to charities like Orchid Project, like Safe Hands, another charity, and Hibo and I are both ambassadors for the charity Safe Hands, and we're really thrilled that the founder Nancy is watching. And Safe Hands makes videos and empowering film and photography that really goes to the grassroots of this issue and helps to amplify the message. So we can donate to charities like Safe Hands, Orchid, and they will help fund the work that Hibo does and that Layla does, so that we can keep this on the news agenda, and that we can hope to move forward to see the end of FGC, FGM within our lifetimes. So I'm going to end it there and also say up the sisterhood. We can all do hearts at the screens if we want. But thank you for joining us so much, and I really appreciate it, and you're all amazing, and let's keep this conversation going. So huge thanks as well to Cyber, to Farah, to the Waltham Forest Women's Network for putting on the event and overcoming all technical issues. You did it brilliantly. So huge thank you. And
thank you guys. And I'd just like to say a huge thank you to the editor, John Chamberlain. He did a fantastic job of getting it all to us before today. He works so hard. And if we could just have a little word from our chair, Farah Ahmed.
Oh, Saib, I thought I'd got away with that. I just want to say that, you know, I have 3 daughters myself. And I have to say it's shocking that anybody would want that to happen to their child. I would kill that person. I would attack that person. But what we need to remember is that it's time to say no. It's time to raise this issue amongst our community. It's not just something that happens around the world. It's happening in our community. It's happening in our neighborhoods. We need to raise it. I want to say well done to Cyber for doing this, because we left her to it and we said, right, Cyber, you're going to lead on this with Hibo. And they did it in a matter of weeks. I'm so proud of them. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Julia. Thank you to all those that are involved. Thank you, Rosie, for hosting. You've done an amazing job. And Ruqayya, who did the social media. We have Anuf as well from Waltham Forest Women's Network. Big up Waltham Forest Women's Network. Thank you, everyone. I hope we can take this message forward and really make an impact, not only locally, but worldwide.
Thank you, guys. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.